ドラキュラ伝説にピリオドを打つのは君だ。
and become the vengeful ancient ghost pirate.
But just keep telling yourself it's only a video game. It's only a...
I'm Morgan, and welcome to the channel. Today we're beginning a 9-part series on Castlevania. We'll be looking at these games in the order that I beat them. We'll be starting with Simon's Quest, which I beat when I was 8 years old. We're going to get into a little gameplay here, and then my friend Arnold is going to drop by the program for a discussion, so be sure to stick around. Simon's Quest has a genuine horror factor here. As a child of 8, I found it deeply unsettling. And I found it creepy doing the replay for this channel. Hell, I might even sleep with the light on tonight. Arnold, do you agree? What are your recollections?
I agree with you, Morgan. There is so much about this game that is genuinely creepy. As a boy, I used to turn the volume off on the TV when the night music played.
Yeah, you know something? I did that too. I wonder how many kids did that. And the scariest part for me was the final approach to the castle. I didn't want to be caught out there at night.
Oh, yeah. Racing the clock on that final bridge. And then making it to Dracula's empty castle. And let's not forget the symbolism here, Morgan. The specter, so to speak, the aura of Dracula is still present in that castle.
Yeah, I like that metaphor. And this is the perfect lead-in to that very cinematic final boss battle.
So look, we all know how flawed this game is, but I can't stress enough how important it is to me personally. It's morbid, it's compelling, and it's beautiful. Without this game, I wouldn't have developed a lifelong love of horror culture.
begins Harmony of Dissonance, a Castlevania game only eclipsed by Simon's Quest in its suspense and morbidity.
So Harmony of Dissonance is a classic Metroidvania game where you are exploring this huge castle, and as you get deeper and deeper in, the further away you get from reality and the more dangerous your journey becomes. This castle is inherently inimical, and it wants you dead.
Arnold and I will return to the program in a few moments to continue the discussion, so be sure to stay tuned. This is a very special game indeed. Okay, so the imagery is decidedly grotesque, but that's part of the appeal for me. As Arnold noted earlier, the deeper you get into the castle, the scarier it gets. Now, I did reference Simon's Quest, and this game is a sequel of sorts.
The plot revolves around a friend of yours gathering, Dracula's remains and suffering a psychotic break as a result of following under their evil influence. He creates Castlevania inside of his mind, which is where half of the game takes place. He has also kidnapped a mutual friend, so it's on you to save her life and restore your friend to sanity. And part of the genius of this game is that it somehow makes this ludicrous plot perfectly plausible. So, in terms of the dynamic between the two castles, things that you do in one castle, like breaking a wall or flipping a switch, will influence things in the other castle. You'll find yourself checking the map all the time for guidance, which might sound tedious, but it's not. It's a really fun part of the gameplay. The game is all about exploration.
Now, this game is not without its flaws. The music has been frequently criticized, although I personally love it. And admittedly, it can be overly cryptic and repetitive. But this is the game that positively hooked me on Castlevania.
Yeah, seriously, Morgan, me too. I encourage anyone who's curious about Castlevania to play it today. It's a good starting point to the series. And if you are looking for a good video game or some good old-fashioned gothic horror, this is where it's at. Thanks for watching.
To the place where all the creatures meet. The last building to your left on the dead-end street. You find skeleton bones outside in the pavement and torture chambers down in the basement. Cobwebs hanging over your head. Music being played by the Grateful Dead. And spinning on the turntables back to back was no other than my main man Wolfman Jack, the MC of the night.
Hi, I'm Morgan, and this is the Castlevania Show. And if you were impressed by last week's episode, then prepare to have your mind blown, because today we are diving headfirst into one of the greatest action platformers ever, Aria of Sorrow.
Now, this was the first game ever showed on the old Retro Rocket channel, back when John was literally taking pics of the title cards and pointing his video camera at the television screen. So I must say that our production values have improved drastically since then.
What a riveting piece of cinema, Arnold. Certainly a deciding factor in terms of me joining the Castlevania show.
Yeah, me too, Morgan. You know, at my age, I've really begun to consider my legacy as an actor. So when the opportunity to cement my legacy as a co-host of the Castlevania show presented itself, I knew I'd be silly to not do it.
Now, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow differs from its predecessors in two big ways. It's the first game in the series to take place in the future, in the year 2035. Remember, the game first came out in 2003. Also, it has a whole cast of relatable characters with a great range of depth. These are folks you can connect with. Although the castle itself holds horrors, I wouldn't call this a scary game.
It's an emotional coming-of-age story about a teenage anti-hero rising to meet an extraordinary challenge. The themes are friendship, unity, endurance, courage, and ethics. That's a hell of a lot for a Castlevania game, but it's executed nicely. Now let's discuss plot and characters. Just a warning, some major spoilers coming up. The protagonist of Aria of Sorrow is an 18-year-old kid named Soma Cruz, who is spending his senior year in high school in Japan as a foreign exchange student. Soma and his love interest Mina are visiting an ancient shrine during a solar eclipse when they are magically transported to Castlevania, which is located within the eclipse itself. There they meet the protagonist of the game Symphony of the Night, the ancient vampire Alucard, who in the 21st century is something like an FBI agent. Soma is initially put off by his cold demeanor, but as always, Alucard is wise, caring, and altruistic. Alucard explains that Mina will die a horrible death if the two of them cannot escape Castlevania, and directs him to fight his way to the throne room for more answers.
I'd like to add that Alucard appears to be dyeing his hair black these days. Soma is also aided by a Vatican agent named Yoko, as well as Hammer, an army veteran who sells him weapons and supplies. He also encounters a supposedly paranormal investigator named Graham, our story's antagonist, and the penultimate boss fight of the game. And lastly, we have Julius Belmont of the Belmont clan, an amnesiac who has returned to Castlevania to recover his memory.
Soma soon discovers that he has what's referred to as the power of dominance. He can absorb the souls of the monsters he kills and use them for weapons and abilities. In terms of gameplay, this replaces traditional items and sub-weapons and is brilliantly effective. He learns that he was summoned to Castlevania because he is actually the reincarnation of Dracula, who was destroyed permanently in the Battle of 1999. Hey, Morgan, wasn't there supposed to be a game about that?
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about it online. It was such a cool story arc, so we all figured that that would be the next game to drop. In any event, it never came to fruition. Oh well.
However, Soma isn't resigned to his fate and uses his dark powers to defeat Chaos, the evil force behind the castle, and in doing so, he saves his friends. This game emphasizes the importance of community, the notion that we all need each other.
Now that's where it's at. Now let's give the viewers what they want and get into some gameplay.
So Morgan, I'd like to add a few final thoughts, if you don't mind.
Please, by all means, Arnold, go right ahead.
Aria of Sorrow corrects all the errors of its predecessor harmony of Dissonance. Navigation of the castle remains cryptic, but in a way that fosters curiosity. Puzzles can be deduced by logic, and the difficulty level is fair and on a good learning curve.
Yeah, I'd second all of that. And most importantly, I was challenged throughout the game without feeling frustrated.
Aside from being one of the best Castlevania games in the series, it's just a great video game, period. Anyways, thanks for tuning into the Castlevania Show. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
They were screaming, they were breaking and foaming at the mouth. Just minor side effects of the haunted house. You have haunted dreams all in your sleep. You'll be tossing and turning to the funky beat. Frankenstein was there with some crazy looking chick. I think he said her name was Voodoo on a stick. She had a big fat head and a skinny body. I wouldn't be caught with her alone.
This is a Castlevania Show breaking news update. Morgan and Arnold are going to try to beat Castlevania 3.
Once upon a time, there was a house that was real scary looking with a rat and a mouse. That was 2 blocks away with no lights on the street. Every time I be walking, my heart would like beat. A lot of people that I knew wouldn't drive down that road.
Hi, I'm Morgan, and this is the Castlevania Show. And if you had your mind blown last week, then prepare to have your wig totally pushed back, because Arnold and I are going to beat Castlevania 3.
We're going to be playing the Japanese Famicom version, mainly because the music is better. Also, it is slightly easier, and Morgan and I aren't masochists.
Speak for yourself, pal. I'm good with either version.
Oh, no doubt, buddy. So am I, for that matter. But I'll tell you what, let's play the Japanese version, but we'll take the Alucard path.
The Alucard path? Damn, going hard, huh?
So Castlevania 3 is slightly non-linear. You can choose between 2 main paths relatively early in the game, either traveling over land and sea or going deep underground until you reach Castlevania. And it looks like we're taking the underground path. But hey, we get to meet Alucard for the first time.
Or the son of Dracula who defies his father's fiends.
I grieve with you, but I won't let you commit genocide.
Now, the cool thing about this first incarnation of Alucard is that this is the only time we see him looking like a stereotypical Bela Lugosi type vampire, right down to his stiff movements.
Alucard's animation is rendered as stiff and corpse-like, and the NES portrays this well. Our main character is Trevor Belmont.
It's time for us to go.
A vampire killer on a 15th century quest to break the evil curse that Dracula has placed on Transylvania. Due to the slightly non-linear nature of the game, he can pick one of 3 characters to travel with.
The other players are a pirate named Grant Dynasty, Cypher the Sorceress, and of course Alucard, the rebel son of Dracula, who we already met in last week's episode.
All right, Arnold, are you ready to beat the hardest Castlevania game ever?
Ready as I'll ever be, pal.
All right then, let's do it.
Oh, it's in Japanese. Let me translate. In the year 2025, an evil AI named Skynet sent a robot killer back in time to assassinate the mother of the resistance movement.
Hello, Mr. Skull Knight.
Rest in peace, Boo. See, this is awesome. Old school Castlevania, frenetic and natural.
Yeah, some of these stages get you right into the groove. It's a Castlevania 1 vibe.
This is the precise moment when the game stops being fun.
Yeah, that's the underground route. Prepare to be besieged from here on out.
This boss isn't too tough.
Are you sure? With 1 bar of health left, lucky boy.
Love how eerie these levels are.
And we have Spikes. Hello, Spikes.
Hello,
Alucard.
Alucard. I'm happy to provide a translation.
Let me guess, come with me if you want to live?
Look, I know this is a beloved game, but the insane difficulty makes it hard to get into.
I agree. Castlevania games are great in part because they are so intuitive and frenetic, but they also rely on pattern recognition. And the game throws so much at you that it becomes unmanageable. And he's toast.
Hello, Alucard. He's awesome. That was a good save.
Poor Frank. Rest easy, big guy. This part is bonkers.
Yeah, so this is basically a Ninja Gaiden game with Castlevania physics. Totally sadistic. Looks like we've reached the castle. Hello, Alucard. You're going the wrong way.
Rest in peace, Boo Boo. Hello, Alucard.
This is the second to last level.
Amen. Hello, Mr. Spike.
Hey, look, a slam screen, everyone's favorite.
Alucard, my man. Well, if it isn't the doppelganger. Rest in power, Boo Boo.
Hello, Alucard. I think this speaks for itself.
Getting right down to it, Trevor and Dracula have a lot to talk about.
Hi, Trevor, please don't hit me again.
Dracula's been eating at that Chinese buffet again.
All right, this is it, pal. Come on, Trevor.
Rest in power, Dracula.
Oh man, I can't believe we finally did it. Nice work, Morgan.
Back at you, Arnold. All right, Arnold, final thoughts?
Castlevania 3 is gorgeously rendered and has a killer soundtrack. I give it points for its diversity of levels and unique characters. But for me at least, the classic Castlevania experience gets disrupted by the extreme difficulty and abundance of cheap deaths. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Castlevania Show, and Morgan and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Is there one thing that put me in shock? I want the house now, right around my block. This is one thing that put me in shock.
Hello, and welcome to the Castlevania Show. I'm your host, Morgan, and together with your friend Arnold, we're going to be playing the best Castlevania game that you've never heard of. Castlevania, The Adventure Rebirth.
Now this game is nominally a remake of The Adventure. In reality, it is a total reimagining of the first two Castlevania games for the Game Boy, The Adventure and Belmont's Revenge.
The Adventure, and by extension, Adventure Rebirth, follows a familiar tale of a member of the Belmont family, in this case, Christopher, fighting Dracula in the year 1576. Exposition isn't too important in Classicvania.
So listen, before we go any further, I just want to thank Bubbles the Chimp.
Bubbles, I am awaiting instructions. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into some gameplay. Arnold and I will be back to chat, so please stick around.
All the cooks in the house love Bubbles.
So I know what I think. Arnold, what do you think?
I think that this game is a masterpiece and you have to be crazy to sleep on it. From the top-notch gameplay to the meticulous attention to detail, Adventure Rebirth is in the top tier of Castlevania games as far as I'm concerned.
The adventure Rebirth is a hard game. You'll die a lot, but it's also fair and gives you everything you need to beat the game. It will take a bit of time to complete, but it certainly isn't inaccessible to the average fan.
And that's one of many things that this game totally nails. Like other great games such as Castlevania 1 and Bloodlines, it's tough as hell without being discouraging. Every room and boss fight has a certain way to be cleared and is tremendously rewarding once you finally figure it out. To me at least, Castlevania is all about being in the groove, feeling like you're in the game, and once you are, it's an immersive experience that comes with good gameplay, and the adventure Rebirth has it in spades.
As always, we thank you so much for watching this week's episode of the Castlevania Show. Be sure to tune in next week.
Alucard of Alucard is...
Alucard's...
Hello, Alucard. Hello, Alucard.
You have ever been the ally of humans. Have you forgotten what they did to your mother?
Think you I would forget such a thing? No, but neither do I seek revenge against them.
Still uttering the same nonsense. No matter. Now is the time to put aside your weak human side and join me in remaking this world!
Dracula, in the name of my mother, I will defeat you again!
Hello everyone, I'm Morgan and welcome to the Castlevania Show. And my goodness, do we have a banger of an episode for you this week? Arnold, what are we getting into?
Well, I'm so pleased to announce that we will be playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Disclaimer. The size and scale of Symphony of the Night are truly massive. There is no way that the bulk of the game could be covered in a single episode. Therefore, Morgan and Arnold are going to focus this week's episode of the Castlevania Show mainly on personal impressions. There will likely be further episodes documenting the game.
The protagonist of Symphony of the Night is Alucard, a powerful vampire and the only child of Dracula. Alucard, who we can infer from later games is a practicing Catholic, has returned to Castlevania after an absence of 321 years to destroy his evil father and save humanity once again.
Alucard is a tortured soul. He witnessed the lynching of his mother by unenlightened villagers at a young age.
I'm coming, Mother! I'll save you!
And was forced to kill his own father in combat. He is aloof and has tremendous difficulty forming interpersonal relationships. He deeply resents being a vampire and views his heritage as being in direct opposition with his humanitarian values.
The blood that flows in my veins is cursed.
He has nothing in common with his morally bankrupt father.
Alucard is humble, courageous, altruistic, and morally unambiguous. This is in keeping with the greater emphasis on Christian symbolism that we start seeing in the Castlevania series.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think that there is a messianic arc about him, so to speak. He is born of a divine father and mortal mother and resists temptations of his base nature. It's interesting for sure.
Maria Renault returns as a supporting character. She was a playable protagonist of the game Rondo of Blood, which was brilliantly remade as Dracula X Chronicles.
It's your fault for being so mean to everyone!
She has come to Castlevania to search for Richter Belmont, the hero from those games, who has mysteriously vanished. It is evident that her and Alucard share a strong attraction to each other.
Impressive. You're very strong.
What is it you want? You didn't come here to tell me that.
You're right. Do you know the name Richter Belmont?
Of the Belmont clan? Of course, but...
He disappeared about a year ago, and I'm sure he's here. If you see him, please let me know.
As you wish, my lady.
Thank you. So, you do know how to be a gentleman?
Unfortunately, I don't think that Alucard is capable of the emotional intimacy necessary to maintain a relationship. His life has been defined by trauma.
Richter is your run-of-the-mill Belmont. I don't mean this in a disparaging way, as I enjoy the Belmont characters, but they are mostly similar. If you've seen one Belmont, you've seen them all.
Yes, but what happens to this particular Belmont is pretty unique.
You just let the big hunter here take care of that bad man.
Richter is introduced to Symphony of the Night by way of an intro sequence which has since become legendary. And if you've never seen it, here it is.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
It was not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh. I was called here by humans who wish to pay me tribute.
Tribute? You steal men's souls and make them your slaves.
Perhaps the same could be said of all religions.
Your words are as empty as your soul. Mankind ill needs a savior such as you.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
There have been many different versions of Dracula in Castlevania. But this particular one is the one that most fans associate with the series. Richter, as it turns out, is being controlled by the Dark Priest Shaft, which explains his disappearance. Fortunately, Alucard is able to break the curse, and Richter becomes a good guy again.
Why did you make Belmont lord of this castle?
For centuries, vampire hunters have defeated evil with holy power. But if two vampire hunters were to fight each other...
But Belmont's power is supreme among vampire hunters. None other could defeat him.
Exactly. That's why I removed him as a threat, by making him into lord of this castle.
It's okay. I don't get it either.
And is that the ace of spades in whatever orb thing Shaft has floating there?
Nice catch.
Lastly, we have a giant in the Castlevania universe, Death. Death frequently serves as the penultimate or even final boss in the Castlevania series. His role in Castlevania is to frustrate and menace Alucard.
Alucard, what is your business here?
I've come to put an end to this.
Still befriending mortals. I'll not ask you to return to our side, but I demand you cease your attack.
I will not.
You shall regret those words. We will meet again.
What?
Okay, so are you following the plot so far? Let's roll some more of the intro to see how all of this comes together.
Okay, best introduction to a video game ever. Now let's give the people what they want and get into some gameplay. Now you'll notice we were checking the map a lot. That's because this genre of game is called Metroidvania.
A definitive Metroidvania is a genre of video game characterized by a sprawling, interconnected world that players explore, gaining new abilities that unlock previously inaccessible areas.
Exploration is the beating heart of this game. It's all about finding new areas, then backtracking to old ones with new abilities. It's totally addictive. I've never played a game like it.
Arnold, what are your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are simply that Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of the greatest video games ever made.
Arnold, I 100% agree. There are a handful of games that I consider perfect or near perfect. Two of these are Castlevania games. For the Castlevania series, the first one is perfect, though that's an easier pick because of its simplicity.
Yeah, everything clicks in Castlevania 1, and I'm guessing that the other game is Symphony of the Night.
You guessed right, my friend. Okay, so as much ground as we've covered in this episode, I feel that we've barely scratched the surface of this truly massive and epic game.
I'm inclined to agree. So be sure to join us again next week for a more in-depth look at the gameplay and exploration mechanics, as well as a little history. And as always, thanks for tuning in.